It's true. I'm going to let you in on the end game of the SJW agenda. Or at least the LGBTQ plus agenda. Or at least the representation aspect of the LGBTQ plus agenda. Well, at least my version of the... Okay, I'm dropping this bit. Yeah, so I think... this is not really something I think I've ever been asked directly. Or if I have, it's been like sporadically, like maybe it's come up in a live stream. But I have found myself thinking lately that as representation of lots of things, but for my purposes, LGBTQ plus people in various forms of media becomes more common, I started to find myself thinking, well, what's the end goal of that? And I don't mean the societal. The societal end goal is linked to it and is not completely detached, but I'm talking about how do we know when we're done? When we've accomplished what at least I would like to see accomplished? What are the signifiers? How do we know when that happens? And it's actually really, really simple. As soon as a character being LGBTQ plus is no longer remarkable, mission accomplished. You know, I've said before, I think this was actually in an interview I gave, that my dream scenario would be to live in a world in which a massive mainstream entity like Disney, DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, what have you, could put LGBTQ plus characters in their all ages mainstream properties, the kinds that are the backbone of tentpole films and make $1 billion at the box office when box office is a thing again, and it's not a headline. The day that Illumination has a non-binary lead in a film, and if a news outlet tries to make a story out of it, the general response is, so what? Why is that news? Ultimately, as much as people accuse folks like me, either by nature of our very existence or by wanting better or more representation of people like us in media, as much as we are accused of wanting to be special, honestly, it'd be really nice to not be noticed for something that is simply a fact of our existence. I need to keep talking about it and bringing it up until that's the case, if it ever is. But no, honestly, the goal is to simply go about my day, my life, my opinions, and not have this come up. You know, maybe the occasional, hey, nice lipstick, thank you. But not have it be the way that I'm defined, because right now it is, including in a lot of ways how I define myself. Because I have to, because it's something that is going to be pointed out and noticed first and foremost about me by a lot of people. So I kind of have to head the train off at the station there. Because the thing is, when we get to a point where you can have a gay, lesbian, transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, whatever character in a show that is intended for everybody, not some niche product, a special gay thing for the gays, and that fact of who they are is not the defining aspect of their part in the story, that is going to mean a lot. Because the thing is, for the most part, not always, and in fact I'll even cite a favorite example where it's not the case, but by and large, we're still at a point where even as representation becomes more common, whatever the thing about that person is, especially if it's being trans or things related to your gender identity, a little bit less so these days with being lesbian or being gay. But for a lot of us, this aspect of ourselves defines what we get to see done. We almost never get to see a trans character just be in a story. They're always there as part of a trans narrative. And that's not to say that trans narratives don't have value. They absolutely do. But I'm saying, I would really like to see a trans character where no part of their arc over the course of the story has to do with their transition or the fact that they are trans or having been rejected for being trans or the difficulties of dating while trans or anything related to that. I want an action movie where some member of a kick-ass all-star hit squad is trans and just is. Never comes up, never impacts the story. And here's the thing, this kind of comes into this whole thing where so often people feel that we need to be justified if we're going to be there, which I've talked about before in that video. But just to reiterate briefly, it is so frequent for anyone who deviates from the template of straight, white, heterosexual, cisgendered, and able-bodied. If you deviate from any, and definitely if you deviate from all five, there has to be a reason. You can't just be there. Something about the story must necessitate you being there. Otherwise, what are you doing here? I know Joss Whedon has become a bit of a difficult figure to talk about in some ways, but I'm still going to pull this quote from him because it is a great answer. Now, granted, he was talking about female characters as opposed to this, but the principle's the same. He got asked in an interview, why do you write so many strong female characters? And his answer was, I write them because you have to keep asking that question. And that's the thing. As long as mainstream and a significant number of people are saying, but why are they there? Then clearly there isn't enough representation. We need to show up often enough, frequently enough, in enough things, in enough numbers, not tokenly, but meaningfully, that eventually people stop asking why we're there. And eventually, maybe it can get to the point where saying, well, why is there a non-binary character in this story? Would be like asking, why is there a left-handed person in this story? You wouldn't ask that. That's a ridiculous question. Why wouldn't there be a left-handed person? What? That's the goal. That's what we want. We don't want to be treated special. We actually want to be treated like everybody else. And also, at times, ignored like everybody else. But a lot of us can't be. And often by choice in terms of our presentation. But look, what I do in terms of sitting down in front of a camera for a living, yes, I do this for attention, and it's what pays my bills. But the fact that I identify this way, the fact that I grew my hair out like this, the fact that I dye it, the fact that I have these frames, they're not for attention. They're so I can feel more like myself. And even if I'm not doing something for attention, because if I sit down in front of a camera, yes, I kind of want attention. But if I'm going to the grocery store, my P.O. box, just to pick up my kid from school, I don't want attention. But I tend to get it anyway because I'm not just considered part of the scenery, part of the furniture. Still seen as an outsider whose presence has to be justified. So when the question, why are you there, is no longer asked, then we'll have accomplished something. And if you want to get a glimpse of what entertainment looks like, where we just appear and the fact of our queerness is not made a story point, watch She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. And if you've seen it before, watch it again. Because for all of the queer characters there are in that, nobody is ever surprised, caught off guard, or questions any time we see a same-sex couple or character expresses love for someone of the same gender, or Bo appears to crush on Seahawk. Nobody in universe questions that. And it's beautiful and wonderful. It's like they said, let's imagine that we're already in the world where nobody needs this justified or explained to them, and it's just there. And it's wonderful. It's also very telling that it really, at this point, can only happen in fantasy stories taking place in worlds that are not this one. In the world we actually live in, it gets brought up and talked to death a heck of a lot. So we are starting to see what this entertainment can be, what it can look like. So when it can be something that isn't set on another planet, in another dimension, but it can just appear in anything, without issue, without being news, without being questioned. It's just there. Thank you very much for listening. As with last week, there is no sponsor, but the Kickstarter for Birth of a Joker is still running. I'm going to put the link in the description. Full disclosure, I am personal friends with the person who is running this thing, and I have already pledged. But honest to God, check out the pitch video. It is this really intriguing concept for a female black anti-hero Joker. The pitch is great. I want to see this so bad. I've done what I can to try and help this come about. Look at the pitch. Consider pledging towards it. This is going to be awesome if we can get there. There's some days left in the Kickstarter. I hope you'll check it out and consider contributing. So thank you very much again. I hope you are taking care of yourself as we get into the holiday season. Be well, be safe, be kind. Whatever thoughts you have on anything that I've said, drop them on down in the comments, and let's talk about it. Usual stuff, you know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. There's the Patreon. That is, in fact, how I earn my living and how I am able to keep doing this, and also eat. And even if you're not able to contribute to that, it's okay. I can't tell you what to do. End of the day, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.